Bottomless darkness. Endless solitude. Complete silence, interrupted only by the static noise of radio waves. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be lost in the cosmic void? With no hope of return, when the voice of mission control becomes fainter and fainter until communication breaks forever. The history of space exploration wasn't written only with heroic letters of success. In its shadow-hide pages that authorities would prefer to bury forever in archives marked top secret. Today, we'll excavate the graves of forgotten stories and resurrect the memory of those whose names were erased from official chronicles. Those who ventured into the abyss before Gagarin and whose final words still echo in the depths of space. Part 1. The Lost Pioneers of Soviet Space Program. October 1957. The whole world applauded the beep-beep of the first satellite. April 1961. Gagarin's smile illuminated the planet. But in the shadow of these triumphs lurked a series of catastrophes, kept silent until the collapse of the USSR. Kapustin Yar, 1948. Long before the official start of the space program, within the secret depths of Korolev's design bureau, the Meteor project was born, the first experiments with sending living beings to suborbital heights. But dogs weren't the only passengers on these rockets. Alexei Ledovsky, Sergei Shibarin, Maria Graznanskaya, Gennady Zavodskoy, you won't find these names in textbooks. According to declassified British military intelligence archives, these test pilots participated in experimental high-altitude flights studying the effects of G-forces. In May 1957, 5 months before the launch of the first satellite, a modified R-5A rocket with a Vostok prototype capsule launched from Kapustin Yar. Inside was pilot Alexei Ledovsky. Officially, another geophysical rocket launch. Unofficially, an attempt to send a human to an altitude of over 100 kilometers. Altitude 90 kilometers, pressure dropping, temperature rising critically, cooling system failure, losing conscious. This recording, discovered in former KGB archives, is the last voice of a man who could have been the first conqueror of space but instead became its first victim. The capsule was never found. Part 2. Bondarenko's fatal flight. Valentin Bondarenko, 24 years old, fighter pilot, gymnastics champion. He was part of the first Soviet cosmonaut squad along with Gagarin. His name was erased from history for decades. March 1961. Just weeks before Gagarin's flight, Bondarenko undergoes the final stage of training, 10 days of isolation in a pressure chamber with a pure oxygen atmosphere. Conditions maximally approximating those in space. March 23rd, the last day of testing. Valentin removes his medical sensors, wipes his skin with an alcohol-soaked cotton ball, and thoughtlessly throws it away. The cotton ball falls onto the heating element of an electric hot plate. In the pure oxygen atmosphere, fire spreads instantly. The sealed chamber transforms into a hellish cauldron. Before technicians could depressurize the compartment, a long 30 minutes passes. Valentin Bondarenko dies from burns in the hospital 16 hours later, 3 weeks before Gagarin's triumph. His death becomes absolutely classified. His photographs disappear from all group pictures of the cosmonaut squad. Only in 1986, a quarter century later, would the world learn about the tragedy of the first dead cosmonaut. Part 3. Mysterious radio signals and the Italian connection. The Cordiglia brothers, radio amateurs from Italy, had been tracking all Soviet space launches since 1957. Their homemade equipment in the mountains near Turin captured signals that official stations didn't detect. In November 1960, they recorded a strange transmission. Through noise and interference came a human voice. In Russian, gasping, panicking. Conditions worsening. The world will never know. Tell my family. God, there's something here. Darkness. The brothers sent the recordings to NASA and European space agencies. The official reaction, amateur radio hoax. But why then did the CIA confiscate all copies of the recordings? And why did Italian police search the brothers' home less than a week after their discovery was published? Independent cryptography experts who analyzed the surviving fragments of the recordings in the early 2000s concluded the signals came from a decaying orbit. Mathematical modeling shows The spacecraft was slowly descending from orbit, ending its journey in Earth's atmosphere. Who was this person? A Soviet cosmonaut on a secret mission or a victim of an experiment? The official history of space exploration never mentioned this launch. But every few years, strange metal debris unlike any known spacecraft is found in the Siberian taiga. Part 4. Vladimir Ilyushin, the man who could have been first. Vladimir Ilyushin, son of the famous aircraft designer, test pilot of the highest caliber. And, according to persistent rumors, the man who went to space weeks before Gagarin. According to Western intelligence data and several declassified documents, on April 1, 1961, 11 days before the official first flight, a rocket with a manned spacecraft launched from Baikonur. The pilot, Vladimir Ilyushin. The mission didn't go according to plan. Problems with the braking system. The ship entered the atmosphere on too steep a trajectory. G-forces exceeded calculations several times over. Ilyushin survived the landing but suffered serious injuries. The USSR, unwilling to admit failure, officially announced that the pilot had been in a car accident. For rehabilitation, he was sent to China, where he spent almost a year. When Ilyushin returned to the USSR, Gagarin was already a national hero. Vladimir never publicly confirmed or denied this story. Until the end of his life in 2010, he kept silent about the events of spring 1961. A strange coincidence. On his grave, among other awards, is depicted a star similar to the Cosmonaut star, but with an unusual distinction. Officially, such an award doesn't exist. Part 5. Phantom Conversations of the Dead. 2002. Radio amateur Heinz Kaminsky from Stuttgart tunes his equipment to listen to ISS communications with Earth. Suddenly, on a frequency close to that used by spacecraft, he detects a strange signal. Secure. This is craft SCP. Orbit unstable. Oxygen running out. Repeat, SCP requests correction. Does anyone hear? Kaminsky records the signal and sends it to ESA specialists. Analysis shows the incredible. The transmission is in an outdated format characteristic of Soviet spacecraft from the 1970s. But by that time, all ships of that era had long since fallen from orbit. Experts propose a shocking theory. Some automatic systems of long-lost vehicles may periodically activate under the influence of solar radiation, reproducing the crew's last messages from onboard memory devices. But what if this isn't just an echo from the past? What if somewhere in high orbit, a capsule with the body of a cosmonaut whose name was erased from history still drifts? Automation maintains minimal systems in working condition, and the radio beacon continues to call for help that will never come. Conclusion. In the darkness of space hide not only the secrets of the universe but also the ghosts of our past. How many more names have been struck from the chronicle of space exploration? How many heroes never received recognition? Each time you look at the stars, remember, perhaps among them still fly those who gave their lives for humanity's dream of space. Forgotten but not gone. Perhaps their final signals still wander in the cosmic ether. And who knows, maybe one day they will reach us, bringing the truth about those who were sacrificed on the altar of the space race.